Hi, guys. My name is Andrew Banara, and this is On the Reel, a filmmaking podcast by BFS.
And I'm here with Frank Acosta. How you doing, Frank?
Good, man.
How's your day?
It was a good day. Good day. We were supposed to film today, but it got canceled. But we're thriving.
That's good. That's good to hear. I appreciate you coming, or rather, taking the time to be interviewed. Yeah, it's your house.
I was gonna say I was already here.
This is
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
How are you
letting
doing?
me come. I'm fantastic. Even better with you here
Okay, come on.
in your
Come up
house.
in our little library. Look at this.
So jumping forward, first question: what inspired you to become a filmmaker? Very generic, but could be telling.
Jurassic Park. Honestly, that's what it was.
Oh, we love Jurassic Park.
We're huge Jurassic Park. Yeah, I think I have Jurassic Park themed shit everywhere. Stuff. I don't know if we can curse on this.
Yeah, whatever the fuck you want, man.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, Jurassic Park. That's the earliest memory that I have that I saw in theaters. That, there's always that one movie where people be like, left such an impression on me. It changed my mind and cinema and everything. That was Jurassic Park for me, I think at 10, I think is when I saw it. 94? At 9, I was 9. Yeah, I came out of it and I was just blown away by it. And then, I don't know if that's when I decided I want to do something with film. It's a good question.
Or at least the seed.
Yeah, the seed was definitely planted with Jurassic Park, which is why I think it's the best. I always go back to it. So yeah, the seed was definitely planted in Jurassic Park. I think the way I got into film was not a revenge move, but it was, we wanted to get rid of a friend in our group. And we just decided what better way to not include him into writing a script. And that's how it kind of got started. But because I've always loved movies, it just came natural. It was just like, yeah, that would make sense for us to write a script to get this guy out of the group. And yeah, that's how I actually got into it. It was out of like, fuck this guy. He's a
How old were
bully.
you?
This was high school. So I think I was like 14, 15.
But you said he was a bully?
He wasn't a good friend. I'll say that. He's the one I think that started the actual group itself. But he was just an asshole. Just a huge asshole. And then everyone put up with his shit. And one day I was just kind of like, dude, fuck this guy. Like, why do I hang out with him? So I kind of started ignoring him. And then my best friend in high school, he's like, what's going on with you and Adrian? And I was like, dude, fuck him. Like, I don't like him, dude. Like, he fucking bullies me. And he's like, he is kind of an asshole, huh? He's like, he is. And little by little, we were like, we need to get rid of him somehow, dude. Because at this point in middle school, we had already gotten rid of another friend. We were, oh my God, dude.
I'm noticing a trend.
This is a therapy session here. You're unlocking memories, man. But yeah, we had already done it once prior to that. But this time around, it was Warrington, not the first one. Ryan, if you're out there. I still remember your name, too.
Shout out to Ryan.
Peace and love, Ryan. Yeah, so we were like, well, what can we do? Like, we can't just keep ignoring him, which we could have. But the move was like, well, he had just purchased a camera, a mini DV cassette camera. And we had shot like a zombie-esque thing in my backyard.
It's amazing.
And we really liked it. So I was like, why don't we write a script to what we shot? And that could be our way of kicking him out. But also, we'd have a script. And yeah, that was actually the closest thing I ever got to making a movie at that age with a budget.
That's funny because, from the people that I've had on this podcast, it seems that there's this, I don't want to say calling of a rite of passage, but it feels that way in certain sentiments of people having their first film being zombie movies. Yeah. It's always zombie, because my first movie was a zombie.
That's right, it was.
I had another guest, their first movie was a zombie movie. I know so many people have had their first be zombie movies. What do you think it is about zombie movies that like creates that, I guess, that initial, I wouldn't say curiosity, but what do you think that is that makes it so?
I think because they're, in hindsight, the way we think about it is that they're cheap to make.
Yeah.
It's something you can do with your friends. Because no one wants to do a movie on their own. You're not Paul Thomas Anderson at age 9. You can do everything on your own. So you hang out with your friends. So what's the one thing that you include all your friends in is not a slasher film. Although if you're smart enough, you could. Because one is a slasher, so wake up. But honestly, it'd be zombies because, like, dude, we can all be zombies.
That is true.
It's fun.
I guess it is an opportunity to, it's almost like you're playing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, and it's fun. You get to be dirty and gritty, and you're filming it. You're not just doing it on a Saturday with no cameras. You're doing it for a reason. And I think that's where the love starts.
So you mentioned this was your first kind of budget.
Yeah.
Moving forward, how do you deal with working with budgets and prioritizing for your films?
It's that is always an interesting component, and it's the main component because it's what gets movies done. But I mean, in a perfect world, you have a good budget to accompany the script that you're going to adapt. And one thing that I've learned, which should be obvious, but it's not until you're in the nitty gritty of it where you start realizing it. Like, I don't think a lot of moviegoers normally would know this, but people in film do know this, is that if you keep your crew happy, you're going to have a good film. Even if it's a bad film, it's going to be a good bad film. But your number one priority is crew. So if you have a budget, you want to allocate the proper amount of budget to each department, and depending on the scope of the project, you're going to have 32 plus departments. If it's an indie one, you'll have like 6 departments, but at the end of the day, whether it's on a large scale or on a mini indie scale, you do want to get your crew paid, and that's where the budget is allocated towards, But then how you keep your crew happy is having great crafty, is catering, so you have that budget going towards there. And until you start working with budgets, you gain another level of film stress. Because before that, it's, YouTube type of ideas, short films, all that generalization where you don't necessarily need a budget. You have the stress of, I need to edit this because the competition is coming up in a couple of months. Gotta hurry, But when there's money involved and people's times, you adding new stress to that because I don't want to wait.
Literally, time is money.
Exactly. There's this funny story on Live Free or Die Hard that Kevin Smith says where they didn't film for the entire day because script problems. And at the end of the day, they just hung out. And at the end of the day, I think Smith asked somebody like, hey, well, how much did today cost? And he was like 138,000. And that movie it's like 20 some years old. So when I heard that, I was kind of like, I believe that.
That's insane.
But from watching that movie till now that, we've worked on so many sets with different types of budgets, it's like, you not only believe that, you know that now, where it's like, dude, like we're running out of the budget quick. On one of the, on a short that we produced, we did run out of budget, so we had to improvise. We had to take some of this budget out. So like, oh, you got, so it's a lot of, I've always said this, filmmaking is 10% creativity, 90% problem solving.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And that 10% of creativity, it's such a good margin to just go crazy. But the 90% problem solving, that comes in every aspect of the stages of film. Production, pre, post, even after the fact.
What are some things that you didn't anticipate being expensive on a film set that normally people wouldn't think about?
Cleaning supplies. Cleaning supplies is one. And there's plenty of other ones. That's just one that comes to the top of my head, just because it's something that we've personally dealt with. We go through so much cleaning supplies. The budget, I don't even know what the budget would be for cleaning supplies or work. I suppose it would fall under locations.
Costco run, dude. Nice little
Costco runs, Walmart runs, wherever you can get runs at. And then sometimes it's hilarious because the more the budget, the more money is wasted.
I agree with that.
And I'm not saying spent, I'm saying wasted.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes when you have a budget, and you're thinking like, what, we could have done this.
Yes, exactly.
Why did we buy this?
Yes. Who, not for nothing, but do we really need like 3 script supervisors
or even
along those lines?
Like sometimes, and this is like obviously no attack at, any of my DPs that I've worked with, but sometimes it's like we rent out lights.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do we need more lights?
I mean,
more lights?
The Revenant was shot on all natural. That's the only light we need.
So how do you approach collaborating with your team and bringing your creative vision to life?
Choosing the best team that you can possibly, pick and choose from. And once you choose the people that you know are going to be good for that job, literally it's a leap of trust and a leap of faith. You let them do what they're going to do, and you trust in them that, you know, that they're going to get the job done. And it opens up more room for you to be creative in the sense of if you need to rewrite the script in certain pages on the day of, if you need to rehearse with your actors, you have more time to give to that now, you know, as opposed to not necessarily delegating, because that's what you're doing. You're delegating all this.
Feels almost like directing is just, and I don't know if I'm wrong for saying this, but it feels like directing is more so just being a really good general manager and hiring.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely say that.
Because when you get, I think Quentin Tarantino said it, right? Like, like there's this really crazy shot and he got it. And there's this other, I forget the context of the conversation, but he was talking to someone. And asked him, how did you get that shot? And he simply said, I just hired them.
Exactly. It's like, you don't need to know lens and this and that. You just need to hire the right people for the job.
Yeah, I like that.
And yeah, as you know, I love that too. And I think I subscribe more to that ideology. But when you look at somebody like David Fincher, who's very meticulous about every aspect of filmmaking, you know, you can't help but also feel a little like jealous of that. Like, I kind of want to be that too, where I know everything and I'm that good. Like, a lot of people, you know, talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. Fincher can do both, you know?
Yeah, because you think, you know, everyone, I mean, which is ideal, right? Everyone wants to be the next Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, of course.
You know, just the process of being Stanley Kubrick is...
Yeah, and I mean, it's that old adage, too, what they say, you know, like, everyone wants to be the Kubricks, everyone wants to be the Spielbergs, but something that we don't understand is that, well, there'll only ever be one Kubrick, one Spielberg.
Yeah.
You're you. Don't emulate, don't copy them, you know, feel inspired by them.
Yeah.
Take from them, make it your own, but there's only ever going to be one of those. And there's only going to ever be one of us, you know?
I love that. What do you think is your general, something that you're always prepping for?
But I'm always prepping for. I think it'd have to be within the last couple of shorts that I've done, the thing that I'm prepping myself up for. I think it was this one that we just did, the last one, you know, 3, 4. Yeah, like the last 4. I've written scenes where the characters need to cry. And that's something that I'm always not like well equipped to do, you know, to my knowledge. Where I'm like, I see that,
but you're able to make your actors cry really well.
I think you see this grin is because he's not lying. And
every actor that you work with, they fucking cry.
They actually, yeah. So I'm not saying I don't know how to get there. I feel like I do know how to get there, and the proof is in the pudding. Because, yeah, it's Winter's Passing. I had, you know, my actor do that one, James. Shout out. He's a regular. Use him in the horror trail as well. And then...
We spoke about Anthony
Ryan.
And the kid.
And then, yeah, and Azul, too, from the Llorona one, too.
And what's interesting about that is you met the kid day of, right?
Yeah, day of.
Can we go into detail about how that process was?
Honestly, that kid was one of... I haven't worked, actually, with a lot of child actors, directing, acting-wise. More so, I've worked around children and everything, but never director to actor. So that one was definitely an interesting challenge because I didn't know what to do. I was like, how do I direct this kid? Because when I'm directing other people, sometimes I'll reference little movies here and they'll understand, like, oh, do you remember this thing from this movie? It's like, give me that. It's like, that's what I'm looking for. It's like, okay, I got you. Or like, you know, be sadder, man. Like, you know, like think about this and this, you know, really life existential questions. But with this kid, I was like, well, he's like 7. I don't know.
What's his existential crisis?
You know, so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it with this kid. But the most interesting thing is that I was able to direct him the same way I was able to direct any other actor because he was that good. I would tell him like, hey, you know what, for this one, give me a little bit, you know, let's cut back a little bit on the sadness, you know, you're a little bit more inquisitive. Do you know what inquisitive means? And then he'd be like, I don't know what that means. It's like, okay, well, it means that you're confused, you know? And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, so you're more confused on this. So those are the steps I had to try and find to directing this, I don't remember his name, but the child actor. And yeah, when I had both of them in the room getting ready for that scene where they were going to start crying, I got them to that place, and I remember I was watching the kid follow Azul. Azul was already, you know, she was already getting to that moment, into that space, so she was letting the waterworks out. And I had both of them close their eyes though. And, lo and behold, this kid, very true to his nature as a kid, he would just peek his eyes open once in a while. But I'd be watching him and he'd be watching Azul and he started like getting sad for her. And that's when his waterworks started coming out. And when I noticed that, that's when I started kind of hitting the description of what I was giving him and adding a little bit more of that kid friendliness to it so that he can adapt to it. Since he already kind of caught on to that hook line from that Azul was reeling out to him. So that was a really interesting experience directing him.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is so fucking cool. And when you write, so you're a prolific writer, dude.
I wouldn't say that.
Always
No.
writing something. What's your initial process when you come up with an idea? Is it like is it based off of inspiration, or is it based off of you sit down and you kind of think about something, or when you write, you're just like, I want to say something. I want to achieve a message and I'm just going to write something over that. How is your process like?
So I think I don't know if, I guess I have to have a process, but the process, I guess, is just all over the place. Because sometimes the inspiration literally comes from like a question, just like yesterday, the day before, I was supposed to be pre-producing for the horror trail, which I did. Eli, I'm just kidding. You can cut that out. I was pre-producing for it, but then I was washing dishes. Because one thing they say, if you're trying to problem solve, this problem, one of the best things to do is step away from it.
Yeah, walk away.
Yeah. So I was hitting it hard, and I was like, I can't get over this. So I started washing dishes, and I was washing dishes. I asked myself, what was it? Because something that I have, as I can't remember my dreams.
We spoke about this.
We spoke about this, yeah. It's weird. Like, I have to assume I dream because I think everybody dreams. I don't know. But I can't remember them. I've only remembered like 5 really good dreams. And they were nightmares, actually. So I don't know what that says.
But it's like creative. Put that in the bank for later.
Dude, maybe actually. And did I tell you that one of them was a Western tech commercial?
Yes. That
one was insane.
That one is not only is it a nightmare,
yeah,
but it's iconic. Yes, it is so iconic.
I like to say that they feature Robin B, because that's what I feel it is, man.
There's a psych op there.
Yeah, that concept came to mind. Like, it sucks I can't dream, And then I thought to myself, like, man, wouldn't it suck if we lived in a world where you sold dreams were the currency?
That is cool.
And the homeless people were the ones who couldn't remember the dreams and they couldn't sell their dreams, which is actually. And from there, I was like, oh my god, this is an idea. And literally for the next 3 hours, I developed that idea and thinking like, how could dreams be currency? And it's like, okay, I'm pitching this idea at this point, so I'm not going to, but I'll pitch it to you after the thing here. But yeah, and it just came from that, just a question.
That's cool.
And then there's been other ideas where literally read the news. You read news articles that are sometimes so far-fetched that you can't believe, like, this is real life.
Yeah, this is reality.
Yeah. And take little moments of inspiration. Like, what I like doing too is I like reading a shit ton of news articles and amalgamating some of them. Like a missing person here, tied to would this sex cult over here, whatever. And you start forming this sort of weird idea that sometimes you can run with it and sometimes you can't. But dude, yeah, and literally it's that cliche saying of like, the world literally is your inspiration. Look everywhere. And you can find inspiration.
Do you have a particular style that you would say you have when writing?
Within the last couple of years, yes. And it's memories. Memories and dreams. I don't know what it is.
I feel like there's this connection between you and dreams, dude. That's interesting.
I feel there is, dude. And I've only started realizing this about myself within the last maybe 6 years. And it's around that time that I started really like my writing has dealt more with like lost memories or dreams, stuff like that. And yeah, and I think that's kind of what it is. Even though the one that I'm working on right now, the horror trail, that's probably the first one that's not necessarily dream related, but memory related.
I was say memory,
yeah,
for sure.
But everything else I've written after that definitely have some sort of connection to memories or dreams. So I'm on that boat right now.
That's cool.
I don't know if I'm going to stay on it for a while, but I'm making myself home here for a while.
Well, like, what do you think is important when you tell a story? What's like the most important part of a story when you write?
Dude, and I hate to get all like well, it's because what makes a good story good, you know? But in all reality, it's like I would honestly just give you a pretty cliche, broad answer. It's like the most important part of a story is for the story to be good. Because that's where it starts. Like these scripts, that's where it starts, in the scripts, in the story. If you have a really bad script, it can still get made, but it's going to get made into a really bad movie, you know? And even though there is joy in bad movies, not certain type of bad movies, all right? I'm not talking about B movies. Even some indie bad movies are great. I'm talking about just one of these movies that and everyone's seen these. You see it, you know that heart and soul was poured into this. Some of us have even worked on these movies.
Yeah.
And I think you and we worked on similar projects before we banded together. So, you know, you watch these movies and you think like they poured their heart and soul into this movie, and they tried, and it just look at it, you know, look at it. That's what you don't want, I think. And not a lot and it's a pitfall that a lot of writers fall into, where they don't, and you know, I don't know whether you need to step back from your own writing and evaluate it, and really come to terms with yourself of like, am I a good writer? Am I not? If I'm not a good writer, how can I improve on being a good writer? If I am a good writer, how do I stay on this path of being a good writer without getting to my head? Because once it gets to your head, you're back on this route, you know? Honestly, yeah, it starts with a really good story, because nobody can tell something bad about a good story. And even though that contradicts what I said earlier, like, what makes a good story good, bad, you know? Universally, there are good stories.
What would you say is a couple good stories that are like objectively good that you kind of go back to?
When it comes to movies, since we're talking about films, you know, one that I personally go back to and that I hear a lot of people go back to is Shawshank Redemption. You know, Green Mile. Those two are some of the top tier ones.
What do you think? What is about those movies that make them so, I guess, timeless? What?
They're good. They're good. A good movie from the 20s, 30s, 40s transcends times and generations and are still being talked about and watched today because they're good.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I feel like, and going back, I'm in my Quentin phase right now, so I'm doing a lot of like,
nice.
I just watched The Hateful Eight, dude. Top 5 Quentin movies.
Oh Lord, top 5.
I would even say third favorite Quentin movie, dude.
Okay, that's
dude.
No, that's weird.
So here's the thing.
It's a hot take.
Super hot.
Great movie.
Super hot take.
Yeah.
As soon as I finished it, I wanted to watch it again.
Did you see it on Netflix?
I saw it on Netflix.
So you saw the extended.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, that movie is phenomenal.
It was just.
It's amazing.
I don't know how he fucking does it, dude. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like he just breaks rules.
Yeah.
And I'm way too rule oriented. I'm trying to step back from not being rule oriented. We could have that conversation too about how do you manage to write, you know, with you know what I mean? Like how do you structure your stuff?
Yeah.
This motherfucker is always breaking rules. And I'm just thinking, and literally back to what you just said, you don't want to be that guy who's like, well, I'm fucking, you know, I'm the best, so I'm gonna break rules, you know. So
yeah.
There's like that fine balance of like, how do I manage to make what I want while still maintaining, like, I guess the stories. It is. It's
a fine line.
Fucking hard, dude.
It is.
It is so hard.
It really is.
So I guess moving forward, how do you initially write your scripts? Do you have a story structure? Do you free write? What's the vibe?
I've done a little bit of, I wouldn't say all, because I don't know what, you know, how many ways there are to write scripts, but I've done a couple of different variations of them where, I've just attacked the page, you know, go into like, oh, I have an idea. Let's just see what happens. I'll just write to it, which I think that's one of the worst things I can do personally, because I'll be on a high. I'll be writing and then I'll hit a hard dead end. And, you know, I can't get mad because like, yeah, well, you jumped in without even knowing where you were going.
It's almost like you getting in a car just to drive.
Yeah.
And then you get upset when you're lost.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. Yes, that's exactly, because that's what happens to me, you know. Yeah, it might work for other people, but for me, it doesn't. But I've done that, and I don't learn my lesson because I've done that multiple times. I keep doing it. I keep doing it. But it's also one of these things where it's like, okay, I've written like, like 30 pages of the script. I don't know where I'm going at now, but there's something there, so I'm gonna put it on the back burner. I'll come back and visit it later. So I like to think that I let nothing go to waste.
Can you walk us through your process with shooting a scene?
I guess it's become somewhat of a subconscious thing because I remember doing this early on, but I can't say that I've done it more recent. But I feel like the path that I take to get there is still the same. So that's why I'm saying I think it's just become sort of an unconscious thing. But like when we started doing like One Last Run, for instance, I remember I had told myself I'm gonna treat every scene as if and it's such a weird, stupid way of thinking it because it technically is the first scene that you're filming, but I had it in my mind where it's like every scene that I'm gonna shoot, I'm gonna make it look like it's the first scene of the day. Like that's my mentality. So I can kind of get them already into that. Bring out the organic, I guess, of what I wanted the characters to feel. And I remember the time that it worked out so well in One Last Run is where we have all the coyotes in the room right before you come out, the briefing. I love that scene, and I feel like it came out so organic.
I loved the bickering too.
Yeah, the bickering was so good. Like the way Lucy had shot it worked out so well, so beautifully. So yeah, and it's just one of those things where I was like, okay, so it's the first scene of the day. What do I need? Because I try making lists. I'm a huge believer in lists.
Lists? Dude, they're life-changing.
I love lists, man. Get on them, guys. Get on them.
So a nice little tidbit as a filmmaker is get on lists.
Get lists, guys. So every morning when I'm getting ready to whatever it is, direct a scene, the first scene of the day, I always make a list of like, okay, what do I need? Okay, so props wise, this is what he's gonna need. Okay, so boom, logistical, boom, got that out of the way. My second list would be like, okay, emotionally, how do I have to get there for the characters to get there? So okay, so maybe I can do one of these. Okay, list.
So actually, let's pivot a little bit. How do you work with your actors? Like, what are some toolboxes that you use to get a specific performance?
The last couple of shorts that I've done, I think the last 4, that for some reason they've all been drama. I don't know, guys. All right. I love that genre, but I mean horror and comedy are my go-tos, and for some reason drama.
We need a horror comedy from Frank.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
They're just good. It's so funny though because you are like your I guess I wouldn't say style, but I feel like there's this energy you bring to like I guess the page where it kind of wants to be, you know what I mean? Like, because I remember specifically, I'm talking about a short that we made, The Haunting. Mm-hmm. You added some levity to it, and I was like, at the time, I didn't necessarily understand what you were going for. Now I completely do, and it was interesting, and I'm like, okay, cool. So like, yeah, we need to see.
That would be
like a horror comedy, dude.
That would be interesting. I love horror and I love comedy. I would love to do horror comedy. I would love to do a little bit of everything, but those would be my top one.
Right, are you just what makes you so drawn to drama right now?
I'm going through an existential crisis. I don't know. It could be any of those monikers, I guess.
Because you talk about the subconscious and how powerful the subconscious can be when you're writing. What are some type of conversations that you probably have within yourself before writing or even after?
I don't know, man. That's interesting. And I keep saying that because it really is interesting to me because I've never been posed these questions before, so I've never really had to think about them.
Because you talked about and I'm genuinely not trying to glaze you too much, but just so the people listening understand, you read so much. What's his name? Billy Idol. He made White Wedding, and I was just so fascinated with why the fuck he wrote that.
Yeah.
And he wrote it in 2 minutes.
Damn, I didn't know that.
He just like his sister was getting married, and he was like upset for some reason.
Yeah, okay.
And so because he was so upset with his sister getting married, he just started writing, and he wrote White Wedding.
Oh wow, that's
And
cool.
And he said, like, even afterwards, because in a weird way, it's like a form of therapy, right?
Oh yeah.
And so, and it's funny because you talk about having existential crisis, and the pages kind of become your therapy. In a weird
100%.
way, you're kind of unlocking that subconscious ability through your experiences of not only life, but through the experiences of literally, I wouldn't say media, but all the books you have read, plus all the media that you've.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I think whatever you ingest is what makes you. And like you just said, books and movies for me is what it is. So there have been moments where I've thought of like inspirations from books or movies, and I run with those. But man, you said something right now that
Those questions that you ask yourself subconsciously moving forward. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it was. That's really interesting because if you were to ask me that, like, I don't know, like when we first met, I would have obviously given you a different answer. But right now, it's one of those things, and not that I'm having a life existential crisis, and if I am, I wouldn't know it because it just hides itself so well. But we all have some form of grief, depression. We all have those sides to us, whether you're the happiest. Mr. Rogers had it, Bob Afro guy had it,
Marley? Bob Ross.
Bob Ross, everyone's got these sides.
Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin. Yeah, the happiest. Yeah, man. Everyone's got these sides. So and it's honestly what our generation before us told our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents would tell. With life comes experience. And the more as we grow older, you start seeing life in very different ways. And something that I started doing recently within the last couple of scripts that I've written is I've started asking more questions about and this is going to sound so, again, pretentious. I don't mean it for me, okay? But like just...
We're rebranding this to the pretentious podcast. You're fine. Just roll
the PP.
The PP.
Yeah, the pretentious podcast.
You got a huge PP going on. All right.
But yeah, I've been asking a lot of questions about death, death and life, and it's like shit, like what would happen, like because we were in an accident not too long ago, me and my wife, and it just maybe that sparked it even more, where almost every night when I get down to brainstorm, I ask these questions like, what would happen if I were to lose my wife now, not my girlfriend anymore, like my wife, whereas I wouldn't have thought of these questions 10 years ago, and even though I could have, because it's one of these things where like you write what it's we always hear that adage. So a lot of writers don't end up writing about a firefighter, for instance, because I'm not a firefighter, or a doctor. The whole point of that adage is if you want to write a firefighter movie, then you write a firefighter movie. You write what what you've gone through, your experience. You instill that into the character. Everything else about the firefighting world, that's just R&D. You're just doing a lot of homework on that.
So do you think it's, when you create a character, do you self-insert yourself, or do you...
Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
interesting.
I think in almost every character, there's anywhere from a 1% to 90%.
Oh, so there's like percentages of how much you...
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure there is. And yeah, I would...
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, it's not, people don't ask, so I don't tell them. But yeah, that's something that I think I've always done. With the exception of maybe One Last Run. I think that one was all for, we were going for gasps.
That's funny because I was literally thinking, I'm like, who was he in One Last Run?
Yeah, so I wasn't in that one, so it wasn't one of those things where, I don't, or not me as essentially, but like, like your the essence. Character. But I think that's the one where we were just trying to write a good zombie story, But I think after One Last Run is where a lot of characters that I've written, anywhere from 1 to like 90% is instilled, that I've instilled.
So it was what, Sigmund Freud, who says that we have 3 personalities: the ego, the superego, and the inner child.
Okay, I've heard that. I just didn't know it was Freud.
And so it's interesting because in a weird way, like these conversations that you have are basically between those 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Do you ever like what's like a clash that you've had when writing a script? You know, is there an inner dialogue where you're like, we shouldn't do this, and then there's another person, that inner child that's like,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm only laughing just because it's so stupid. It's hilarious. But yeah, I remember one script I had written. No, maybe I shouldn't tell that story.
no, you tell it, tell. No, you have to.
It was oh man, I don't even know what it was for. But the idea was that aliens had came down, so already the suspension of belief. I'm expecting you to go on this ride with me, and ask no questions when questions should definitely be answered. I mean, asked. Yeah, these aliens came down or something, and I don't remember the idea or the story, but I remember aliens were involved, and there was a rape scene involved with the aliens.
Oh my god.
And I remember we had presented it to, I don't remember who you presented it. It's so long ago. And obviously they were like, no, write that out. And in my head, I was like, I'm going to keep it in. I'm going to keep it in.
That's amazing.
I kept it in, and we never made that project or anything. But yeah, that was one of them where my inner head was like, nah, dude, freedom of speech, go for it. You know, I was much younger back then, obviously, but more recently I had one too, when I was writing, actually with a child actor, because in that one, spoiler, the child.
Yeah, we still haven't released that one.
No,
It's on the release schedule.
it is.
Hear that.
Yeah, just edit that out. I think. Yeah. So let me rephrase that then. Hold on. How can I rephrase
I'm
that?
just gonna keep it in, just because it's
Okay.
I'll just bleep out.
Yeah. Believe it up. But then okay. So then so the question came up to whether show that or not.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Interrupt.
I love the idea of asking questions when you write. That's really interesting because it's like it feels like every script has an answer then, or
I mean, I would hope so. At least, are you referring to the one that I've written?
yeah. Like,
I would hope so.
do you already have the answer?
No.
Do you try to lead?
God, no. Well, I mean, sometime, but
God no.
well, wait a minute. Maybe I do. Yeah. I guess it depends on the project. So for like Winter's Passing, for that one of the questions that I had posed was like, does he die? Is he gonna die, or is he gonna kill himself? That was how I had posed it myself. Like, will he go through with it? And I already had the answer in my head, which was no, he doesn't, because I knew what I wanted the scenes before that leading up, because I knew those scenes were going to be the emotional pact that the story punched. And yeah, so that one already had the answer for that one. But then for other ones, no, sometimes I don't. Like for this one that I'm writing right now, this one I did as well. It's very similar to Winter's Passing. This one I did, but the feature that this one is based off of, that one, I have so many questions that I've written down, and I think none of them right now are answered. So that one's going to be one where I'm like, when I'm ready to tackle that one,
that is so interesting. So when you write a script, you more so, and again, it's pretentious, but it's like you don't write scripts, you just answer questions.
yeah. If you want to say it that way,
ask the right answer. You ask the right questions.
Yeah,
and you try to deliver the answers as well.
I mean, I like that. That sounds way better. So let's go with that. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to ask questions in scripts. You absolutely have to. If you're not asking questions, then I don't know. What are you trying to tell? You know?
I guess what are like some go-to important questions that you ask when you write a script?
One that I have right now that goes, I guess, beyond the film itself is how are people going to react to this short, specifically, you know, certain aspects of it. How are they going to react to it? Because again, I wrote this 2 years ago. I wrote this 2 years ago. We filmed it 2 years ago, but we're barely finishing it now. So more than likely, it'll be out either this year or next year. And within that span of 3 years, not only have I changed, but the world has changed around us. But the idea has stayed the same between those 3 years, because I really, I truly do like the idea a lot, love the idea. love your stuff, love yourself, guys. All right. So I really do truly love that idea, but it's also one of those questions where it's like, what is this still appropriate in the time frame that we're in right now?
Mhm.
Like, how are people going to react to that? So that's something that I asked even when writing 2 years ago, like, how are they going to react? I forgot the question, but
The proper questions to
the
have.
proper question. Yeah. So that's one of them. How are certain, how's your audience or your reader going to react to certain scenes? Is it going to evoke the emotion that you're going for? That's probably a big one that I've asked in the last 6 scripts that I've written for myself. Is it going to elicit what I'm looking for?
So do you serve the audience, or do you try and
It's got to be both. As hard, as difficult as that can be, as it is. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have your cake, but you can sure as hell taste it at least. So I think you can try and do both, where I do, because that's what they say. Once you're done with something and you send it out to the masses, it's not yours anymore. Only because it gets lost in translation. Whatever you had set out for it to mean, there's 1,000 other interpretations of it. Like, this is what it means to me. This is what it means to me. It's like, that's not what I meant. It's like, it's not for you to decide anymore. It's out there. It's everyone else's now. So it is a beautiful thing to be able to do that, where it's like, here, like, this is something that I wrote and directed that's from somewhere personal, and I'm sharing it with you all, whether you hate it or you dislike it, or you're just like, fuck that guy type of a thing. It's like, I welcome all that, because it's what I feed off of for my next thing. Like, if I can make people feel this about this or that about that, it's like, what can I make them feel about my next one? And again, whether they hate it, dislike it, or like, fuck this guy. So that's another question. I think that was the original answer that I had for this.
So going back to when we talk about intention and subconscious, how do you blend the two, or how do you navigate that when you write a script?
I think for me personally, sometimes the subconscious comes after the intention. So I'll have this idea that I want to have this intent with, and I'll write it out, and I'll chisel at it to be where I want it to be at. And then the more I start thinking about that idea, the more I start realizing, like, oh no, wait, this is something that I've either done before, thought before, or whether it's some weird, strange version of deja vu. But it's like, I have this weird connection to this, which is why I rewrote it with that intent. So at least for me personally, I think it just comes out afterwards, the subconscious of it.
Have you ever been moved by anything you've written? Or like it struck you, Like you were probably writing within your self-conscious or your subconscious, and, after the fact, it makes you take a step back.
No, it's weird. It's weird. Like, when I'm sober, no. But when I'm on certain drugs, yes. And not certain drugs. I'm just kidding. No, I don't know, man. I can't honestly say that I have written something that's moved me, just because it goes back to that fucking cliche saying of we're our own harshest critics. So when I read something that I wrote, it's like, oh God, dude, what the hell was I thinking? This is awful. But then there's been moments where I've handed out scripts that they've elicit the emotion that I'm after, to the point where, like, there was this instance where I emailed a couple of people the script, and one of them called me back immediately after he was finished with it. And then another friend texted me immediately when he was finished with it. And like 2 weeks later, 2 more people send me pictures of them crying with the script. So I was like, okay, so that's cool. That story is eliciting the emotion I'm going for.
Mm-hmm.
But when I read it back, I'm like, this is shit.
That's interesting, because you have to almost hang on to the feeling of when you wrote it, because you almost become desensitized.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I feel that. I don't know if I am desensitized or but it's something to think about for sure. Because again, I don't have those emotions for the shit that I read, but when people give me that emotion, yeah, like I do try to hold on to that where it's like, that's cool. Like
Do you
I
have to,
want to
like,
make people
remind
feel that
yourself?
way.
Do you have to remind yourself
A
when you're on
100%.
set?
100%.
Because you don't feel it anymore. So how do you still navigate feeling versus, because you wrote it,
Yeah.
and as a writer you feel it, and then pre-production happens, probably months pass by,
Mhm.
or even in this particular moment, to like when you are starting to film again,
Yeah.
and there's like that long gap. How do you manage to continue to feel it without having that initial like moment?
I mean, there's different ways of doing that. That I personally do. One of them, for instance, is that I always have music when I'm writing something. And usually before I write, I don't even know why I'm looking at the camera anymore. Before I even start writing something, I usually try and start creating a playlist off of the tone that I'm going for. So like on my playlists are nothing but like my movie screenplay ideas. And those songs that I've chosen will give me like music and film go hand in hand. So whenever I go back to seeing those hearing those playlists, those emotions come racing back, kind of like, oh yeah, like it gets your heart pumping. Like, yeah, I'm getting this now,
That's interesting. And actually, there have been studies that music actually does create anchor points, and even like that's why people get nostalgic when they listen to 80s movies or 80s music and stuff like that. So that's actually a really good advice for young
There you
screenwriters
go.
and filmmakers,
Take it.
as a way for them to create an emotional anchor to these playlists. That's
I
actually
never thought of it, but yeah, there you go. Take that. Because yeah, that's what I'll do, like playlists, and then that goes the same thing for like videos, like little memes and stuff. Like yeah, I remember that maybe, yeah, oh yeah, and I'll save. Like I'm a hoarder, both digitally and physically. So my phone is just full of just shit I can go back to and be like, yes, okay, and that's how I'm able to tether to these anchor points.
That's awesome, dude. And it's funny that you say that, because I started to do that.
Nice.
No, I
Hell
thought,
yeah, dude.
and I did do it on purpose, because I know you did that. And
Nice.
I started to finally implement it, and dude, it's great. And I recommend any screenwriter to start doing that.
I do too now.
And it's funny because an actor that we've worked with in the past, this is, again, I barely started doing this. And he went up to me, he's like, "Hey, dude, give me your film playlists. Like, give me."
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, "Dude, I don't have any film playlists." He's like, "You're a liar, dude." Like, he got so offended that I refused to give him my quote unquote film playlist. And I'm like, "Dude, I don't have any."
No, I love that. You know what I'll do? I'll go one step further, and I'll actually sometimes create playlists for characters. Wow. So for Horror Trail, because like you said, it had been 2 years before we finished this last scene, so I needed to get one of the main actors to a certain place. So I created a playlist for him, and I gave it to him. And I told him, I don't know if you're gonna do it or not, but I would like to leave you with this homework. Have this on repeat until we meet tomorrow.
That's actually really cool. That's really cool.
So do that too.
What other things have you done for actors and their homework before the role?
Sometimes what I'll do is I'll write backstories to them. And that's just so that they can get in that mindset of like who this character was, or which sometimes it's like not even fucking worth it, where it's like, oh yeah, I did not need to do any of that extra work.
But sometimes it is worth it though.
Yeah, and it depends what project it is. It depends what actor you give it to, because sometimes actors... and they'll just show up and like they'll give it all and like, okay, cool, I didn't need to do shit, and then others will be like, I don't know what to do with my hands, type of deal,
What do I do?
Yeah, so that's always an interesting way of moving around actors and stuff like that. But yeah, so I've done that before. I've written like backstories of lore, if you will, to these characters. I'll do playlists to them. I'll do movie playlist as well.
The character playlist is that's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I don't direct often, so I don't get to do that a lot. And then sometimes the actors themselves don't get these items, only because once we're there on set, we already got to that place a lot sooner than anticipated. So I was like, oh shit, okay, well, we didn't need any of this bullshit,
And do you when you write a script, do you keep a certain routine or?
Yeah, I think I definitely do. Before I lived here with my wife, the routine would be I would get home, I would eat something, and then the way I write, it's really odd, where I have to have the television on. I'll have at the time my Kindle on with YouTube. I'll be watching a movie over here. I'll be on YouTube over here, and then on my phone I'll be scrolling through TikTok, and then I'll start writing that way. Just because I guess I get a little bit of everything, and then I have each one set at different volumes, so that I can every so often be like, "What's going on over here? Oh, I like this. Okay, cool. Going back to it, and then be like, my favorite scene's coming up. Oh, dope, and then come back to it. And I guess those little moments are just like, I don't know, little gas pit stops. They'll help me out.
Okay, so that's funny because I do something not similar, but when I write, I have to have a Diet Mountain Dew.
Diet Mountain Dew?
I have to have hot coffee.
No, oh, damn, dude.
Black.
Yeah.
And then I have to have a Topo Chico. I have to have those three.
Damn, your stomach must hate you.
And I drink them, like not drink one and then go on to, no, I drink them in different
in different orders.
In different orders.
Yeah, I've done that before too.
And I think that's an ADHD thing. For sure you. Yeah, I think so. No argument there.
I think so. No, and so that's what I would do at my parents' house over there. Here, what I'll do now, and it's funny too, because I'll go through periods of what I want to watch. So for since December 31st till now, I've been on a Twilight Zone binge.
Nice.
Nonstop. Like, my wife is so fucking tired of it. But what I'll do when she go to bed is I'll sit at the table. I'll have my laptop up. Twilight Zone playing. No, I'll have a movie playing over there. On my laptop, I'll be playing Twilight Zone. On my Kindle, I'll be playing YouTube. On her iPad, because I've implemented that now too. On her iPad, I'll be on another page on YouTube, and I'll just go to town.
Some aspiring screenwriter is going to listen to this, and they're going to tell their wife, "I have to have."
Yeah, it's just
I need to buy a Kindle. All right, Frank, when he writes, he has a Kindle.
And it's got to be an old first generation Kindle, because that shit will not hold a charge.
No, they're gonna want the new one.
No, if you want to write, you got to have a first generation Kindle.
And how do you develop your characters?
I think, and again, I mean, yeah, like, this is just me answering whatever comes to mind, and not whatever comes to mind, but you get me, like, this is again, you're asking me these questions for the first time, so it's like I got to dig deep to see, like, how do I come up with characters? Because if I'm being honest, the last couple of films, I wouldn't say none of those characters were memorable in the set. I don't know why I keep looking over here. In the sense of, like, he's your Hans Gruber from Die Hard, or, like, those types of memorable characters, if you will. But the way those have came out is honestly going off of what we had spoken about earlier, where I've instilled, like, that 1% of me in there. And then from there, it's like, okay, I'll start branching off from there. Okay, so it's like, I've instilled this of me to this character. So then this is what I like to do. It's like, okay, maybe he likes to do that too. But then I was like, well, wait a minute. What if he doesn't like to do that? What would happen there? So like, okay, let's erase that. Maybe he doesn't like to do this. What would happen if he needs to do that now? It's like, oh shit, okay. And that's how you kind of start. That's how I kind of start creating those characters. And when it comes to, like, films that, what I like to say, like what Scorsese says, theme park films, like the fucking, like One Last Run, those, I just had so much fun creating those characters. Because, because you came out in it, you were one of the antagonists in that one. And I had so much fun writing that character because I wanted to write in your name in as a joke. So your name was Ford, and then I wanted the other characters to be like, Ford, focus. Very low-hanging fruit type of comedy, but I really had fun creating those characters.
This is going to be like a two-part question. And this will be our closing notes. Part one of the question is, what do you see young or new screenwriters do? And what advice would you give to young filmmakers and young screenwriters?
I don't know. I guess something that I see, and I wouldn't even say it's maybe new screenwriters. It's just screenwriters in general, whether they're new or not. Something that I see is, I don't know, maybe kind of like check yourself in a way, stay humble, because I've read some Yeah, that's a conversation for a whole nother story. But that is something that I do see where I don't know if I see a lot of screenwriters be humble. You know, they think their pen is God's instrument to them to write these words of that are just gonna change
Dude, honestly,
life.
not to interrupt you, but I don't understand how I was talking to this producer, and I won't say much.
Yeah.
Let's just say a specific producer on a completely different project recommended something
Mm-hmm.
for the story, and I said,
Like a movie or
yeah.
okay.
And I was like, oh, that's really good. And the guy said, yeah, I'm a genius. All my ideas are good. No, I don't understand how someone could be like that.
See, okay, so that's a prime example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that just goes that goes outside the realm of screenwriting. That goes for the world. But no, in the sense of like being in film, whether you're a director, screenwriter, whatever the hell it is you want to aspire to be in film, know your roots, know where you came from. If you came from somewhere humble, and stay humble. And if you're not humble, get humble. Get humble. That's something that I don't see a lot of, and it goes a long way. I feel it goes a long way. And then inspiration. I mean, I'm not one to give out inspiration, man. But if I would, so then I guess I am. By that logic. I can only give you the example. I mean, the advice that I've heard from other people, which is the very cliche. The only thing that can stop you is you. So don't stop writing. Just keep writing. And I'll go one further, where I have given this advice before, where you don't have to write screenplays all the time, but as long as you're just writing something. So take time to write 5 minutes out of your day, whether it's your own thoughts. Someone had me do that with them before we would collaborate on a script. We would take 10 minutes and just write just whatever we were thinking, just to kind of get the ball rolling, So just write.
It's like a really good warm up.
Yeah, exactly. They're pre warm ups, So whatever it is that you want to, if you do want a screenplay, but you just don't feel like writing, some pages that day, just write a quick 5 minute, log in your diary, journal, whatever it is, write. Don't ever stop. Second one would be watch movies. That's the big one. Watch as many films as you can and change your perspectives on it. Like I think within the last couple of years, I started developing this habit of watching movies in 3 different perspectives. The general audience, which I akin more to my parents type of general audience, where they're in it just have a good time. The movie can be bad, but they'll still enjoy it. The second one is when you know a little bit more about the form of writing or screenwriting. Scene 1 plus scene 2 equals scene 3. That's cool. I really like how they did that. But then in this one, scene 4 plus scene 6 equals 36. That didn't make sense. And then the third perspective would be is if you actually work in film, you get to break that barrier of like, dude, I bet you when they were filming this Dune scene, like the locations guys were off to the side, just, playing Nintendo, stuff like that. Those are the 3 types of perspectives that I'm trying to watch films in. And it really does kind of change your opinion on it, because I really do love all types of films, international, down to the worst movie ever made, Manos and Hands of Fate. Here in El Paso, Texas is what they say. I love that movie. I adore it. But then I also love movies that make you think. Come and see Schindler's List, You have to love everything. And even if you don't love everything, you can still learn from that. So watch movies. Never stop writing, watch movies. I'm going down my checklist mentally. Always make lists. That's another one. Make lists. Get on the lists. And the fourth one would be when you're writing a screenplay, know the rules when it comes to terms of, it's got to be Times New Roman. I don't even know what it is actually, because fuck, everything does it for us already.
Yeah.
Final Draft does it for us. Know that in case you never have that software, know how to format the scripts. But when it comes to actually writing the scripts, write it however the fuck you want to write it. However you want to write it. And that is an advice that I did take from my senior English teacher, Mrs. Garajeda. Shout out. I don't even know if she's still alive.
Oh,
but I hope you are. But if you are, you gave me the greatest advice that I ever took from high school, which is you had told me, and I don't know why I'm wrapping this up like we're on Hot Ones. She had told me that because me and her really bonded over reading, out of all things, because I didn't have any friends in that class. So I would always read, and then she'd always be like, "What book are you reading?" It's like, "Oh, Dreamcatcher from Stephen King." It was just released, so you'll get a gauge of how old I am. But then I remember she told me afterwards, like, "Hey, look, listen, like, I have to teach you all these things, the consonants, the verb. I have to. It's part of the curriculum. It's good to know these things, you know. But when you're out of here, and if you do want to pursue writing as a career, it doesn't matter how you write. Write however you want." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then I started reading Cormac McCarthy, and I was like, "This motherfucker doesn't need punctuations." Okay. And then you start reading more and more. So that's another one. Read as much as you can, whatever it is you can.
Yeah, honestly, reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll get so much knowledge from the world without ever having to leave your fucking room. But you'll start learning so many other things on how to write, you know? And that goes with screenplays. If you read screenplays, you're going to see 1,000 ways that people write screenplays differently. And all of them are going to tell you that they are the ones who wrote it correctly. And they're all going to tell you that this person wrote it wrong. There is no right or wrong way when you're going to write a screenplay. So just write it, you know? If you're going to add music into it, don't tell people, don't let people tell you, don't put music into it. No one's going to read it. Say, fuck them. Put it in there, dude. Who the fuck cares? So learn the format of how to write screenplays, but when it comes to actually writing them, however the fuck you want to write them, as long as it's good. That's it.
Nice. Love it. And where can people find you?
Boardfilmstudios.com.
Boardfilms.com.
Boardfilm.com. And I think that's...
Instagram, you want to plug in? Or
Oh, yeah, why not? I don't use it, but I might soon. I don't even know what it is. It's Flyboy Film, Fly10 something. Flyboy Film. Look for that.
I'll put a link.
There it is. Yeah, that's how much I use Instagram. Yeah. That's the only, Board Films Instagram, and then what else do I use?
Flyboy Films. Do you use TikTok or anything? I know TikTok's gone, but
I do, but I don't post anything on there either. And you can't look at the video that I privated for obvious reasons. So just those. You know, and if you want to find me somehow, you know, do your detective work.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it.